At DePaco Credit Union, we value your health and happiness as much as your financial well-being. We encourage the volunteer spirit by providing DePaco employees with the tools and resources to help grow our communities and support the causes that matter to us. We believe that giving back not only strengthens the places we call home, but also enhances our overall well-being. Well-being is the key to a life worth loving. So when you think about yours, remember that DePaco can help you be well.
All things Hawkeyes. Your all-access pass from the sidelines to the postgame. Iowa's News Now Sports presents Eye on the Hawks. Sponsored by DePaco Community Credit Union and Pin Seekers.
Anytime I talk about medical stuff, I always qualify that I'm not a doctor. Look at my resume or transcript, I guess. Like I stayed the hell away from chemistry, physics, all those things.
And the Hawkeyes are hoping the Badgers stay the hell away from the Heartland Trophy this weekend in Madison, Iowa, heading northeast to Camp Randall to take on Wisconsin, looking for a fourth straight win against the Badgers and winning 5 of 6. But, of course, all eyes on the health of number 11, Mark Gronowski. Lots to talk about on this Wisconsin preview edition of On the Hawks. Thanks for joining us here at the DePaco studio in Broadcast Park, Northeast Cedar Rapids. Mitch Fick, Owen Sebring, Mike Howell here. Director Erica running the show here on a Wednesday. Lots to get to, including a big shakeup on the position of what's considered to be the quarterback of the defense. We'll learn a little bit about what Jaden Montgomery could bring to the table. And we'll revisit a tweet and a report and a comment from a Wisconsin linebacker from almost 6 months ago to the day and see how that's continuing to play a role in at least what a lot of players got questioned about in Iowa City on Tuesday. And, of course, we'll have our Hawkeye highlight as always. Welcome to the fray, Nathan McNeil, the true freshman out of Tampa, Florida. We'll get to hear a little bit from him and his first media availability during the regular season. Of course, a lot of focus on him in the offseason. But, of course, thank you to DePaco and Pin Seekers for sponsoring the podcast here as we tee it up with Pin Seekers talking about what else? The quarterbacks. Mark Gronowski practicing Tuesday. Sound like he looked positive. But, of course, Hank Brown and Jeremy Hecklinski getting all the reps last week. And players weren't saying a whole lot about it, the quarterback competition on Tuesday. So here's Kirk Ferentz about the situation as we sit just about 72 hours out from kickoff in Wisconsin.
He just basically practiced. We didn't run any quarterback runs with him or anything like that. But no, he just had a normal day. I don't know if his car's out there right now, but I see it out there a lot. At least I have the last 9 days. And, we're not making him pay taxes or anything like that. But he's in the building an awful lot. And, he's just wearing out the training staff. But testing came back positive. That's the most important thing. Got that Monday, I guess it would have been. So that was a start. And then, basically it's just what he can do and how fast he can progress. And I know he's doing every bit he can from that standpoint, and the medical staff's doing a great job working with him, and pleasantly surprised, quite frankly. Last week, Mark didn't do anything with football, so he didn't get any snaps. We took all the reps that we did have and divided with those two guys. So we're going to let those guys compete, and really it's a whole, with all three of them right now, it's who looks best by Friday. That's who will start the game. So, it's a pretty open competition. Hank's done a really nice job, and Jeremy's been impressive. In season, it's tough to, give three guys reps, which is it's hard to do. But with the bye week, it gave us a chance for, all guys to compete. And, I think both guys look good. So they're different quarterbacks. They have different strengths. And, you just never know. But, we'll see how it all shakes out.
Well, fellas, how do we think it shakes out? Simple question. Who starts Saturday for the Hawkeyes at QB?
We're looking for predictions. I think if I'm putting my money anywhere, I think it's Mark Gronowski. I think Kirk Ferentz seemed really encouraged yesterday by what he'd seen in practice. It seems like having that bye week really helped a lot. If this was last Tuesday, I would not have said that, but it seems like Kirk seems pretty confident. But, boy, I'm not a trusted source on this matter, of course. None of us are, honestly, with how close that program plays things to the vest. But if I were betting, I would say Mark.
Yeah, you got to think if Mark Gronowski can play Saturday, he will play until he can no longer play. And, I think that's the way you want it. Obviously, the QB run game, like, Kirk said, they didn't do anything on Tuesday. I'm sure they won't have any of those cooked up either unless they absolutely need it. But I would bet Mark, unless something happens the next few days, like he re-aggravates a knee on a weird, turn or whatever. he seemed pretty surprised, though, at how well he performed on Tuesday. Obviously, no media is allowed to watch that practice, so we don't know what that was like. But it just seemed super encouraging if you get to that, if you want Mark to start. And obviously, I think that's the majority of Hawkeye fans.
Yeah, and if he's healthy, you start him. I think he's your guy. He's your starter, and Kirk said as much on Tuesday. The other big story out of the quarterback depth chart that was released on Monday was the between Brown and Hecklinski. Do we think that's legitimate? I'm a Hecklinski guy. Do we think that's legitimate, or is this like, hey, Wisconsin, go try to scout this third option who you have no film on because he took 3 snaps at Wake Forest, who just I can't remember if there's been a time in season where there's been more than 2 options. It was Jake Christensen and Ricky Stanzi.
Yep.
I think Arvell Nelson wasn't early, or him or McNutt or whoever was 3 in 08, like wasn't part of the conversation. I think in the preseason in 13 or 14, it was Rudock, Beathard, and Cody Sokol. But once you got in, then it was Beathard and Rudock. Even it was Petrus and Padilla. Wasn't really a third guy that came up in that. And then last couple of years, Caden Sully. This is the first time that it's felt like in season there's 3. And that, I don't know, what do you guys think about what Hecklinski has maybe done in showing the bye? You heard it's tough to get 3 guys reps in season. Did he do something last week that made guys say, maybe we've got somebody else here at number 10?
You have to think he must have, for them to make that transition to the in the depth chart. Otherwise, you have to think that they'd want to give Hank Brown that confidence as the backup. Like, don't change it unless Hecklinski really made a deep push at practice, or if you weren't pleased with something that you saw out of Hank Brown on the field against Indiana. Obviously, a tough situation that he comes into, but nevertheless, I have to think that Hecklinski's been showing something out there for them to say that he could be actually the starter instead, if it's not Hank Brown.
I've got to think that it's just, I don't even think Kirk Ferentz plays a lot of mind games like that, but like, I would be shocked if Hecklinski played and it wasn't injury related. Like Mark doesn't eventually start and Hank gets knocked out of the game. Like that's the only scenario I see Hecklinski playing. Not saying that he's not a good quarterback. I just like the track record of Kirk Ferentz quarterbacks. Like he sticks with the guy they pick most often than not. I think the ones you mentioned where they went back and forth in 13 and 14 with Beathard and Rudock, Jake and Ricky Stanzi, and then even back with Banks and Kyle McCann.
Yeah.
Like I feel like those are the only quarterbacks where
you just don't hear 3 a lot.
Yeah, unless a quarterback gets hurt, like Petrus did in 21, or Cade did the past 2 years. It just, I guess last year Cade got hurt again, but I think a lot of people thought Brendan would be more effective anyway because he's just a change of pace. We just don't see it from Kirk Ferentz, so I'd be shocked if he actually did. But who knows? Maybe he did, spark. I think Kirk actually said yesterday, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you guys are, you both were there, right?
Yeah.
He said Hank is definitely that number 2. Didn't he say something like that?
Yeah, Hank has the inside track is the verbiage he used. Because again, Hank showed up in December. He was part of bowl prep. I mean, he was with Iowa before he could really play for Iowa. He's put a lot of time in there. But man, everything you hear about this Hecklinski kid, again, it's all high school stuff, but he played high-level high school football in Georgia. I was talking to Sam Phillips about him yesterday, a Georgia native as well. And, he, even in high school, people knew the name Jeremy Hecklinski. So he's obviously known Warren Ruggiero forever, recruited him to Wake Forest. It's just an interesting little wrinkle, but you're also is he just out there to give Wisconsin something else to think about because they don't have tape on him that isn't from Walton High School in Marietta, Georgia? It's interesting, but hey, Hank and Jeremy are 2 competing in 26, you imagine, 6 months from now. So whoever gets that inside track again, it's Hank's right now, but it'll be interesting for sure.
You say you're a Hecklinski guy. What is it about him that makes you a Hecklinski guy?
He's just fun. The kid's got a YouTube video from when he was 11, and he's just a slinger. He's not a big guy. He's 5'11", $190, but man, he even made
Short Kings. Is that what it is?
That's what it is. Yeah, but man, even Kids Day in August, he had a couple little plays where it's just that wiggle. I don't want to draw the exact parallel to Beathard. I remember watching him in spring of 12, and coming back, and Jared Aarons was the sports director here, and he's like, so how'd they look? And I might have been year 1 of Greg Davis, or I can't remember exactly what was going on there, but I go, that long-haired kid from Tennessee who's like QB3, like there's something about him. He's like, that's great. How did the first team offense look? It's like, I don't know. Like that kid like just kind of slings it a little differently. So, yeah, I'm just excited about him. He's not the type of quarterback that Iowa brings in. They don't bring in smaller guys. Like Ryan Boyle might be the last guy who they brought in who like was a little undersized, but again, he was a video game at Dowling and tore everybody up. Ultimately moved to wide receiver and then transferred to Indiana State and was like MVC newcomer of the year there. But he's just an intriguing prospect, and in this revamped quarterback room, you know, Tim Lester's trying a little bit of everything. And yeah, it just interests me to see how it shakes out, whether it's this week in Madison or next spring as you're trying to figure out who's QB1 in 26.
Yeah, when you think of short quarterbacks at Iowa, you think obviously Drew Tate in 05.
Somebody quote tweeted something I posted yesterday and said the next Drew Tate's in the locker room. I'm like, oh, like sure, of course that's what you're going to think, and boy, wouldn't that be something? But yeah, you don't know.
To your point, when you initially like, is it mind games? You know, like ironically enough, like Wisconsin went through this last week, like because their quarterback Billy Edwards, and this week actually, because Billy Edwards was out last week. He's unknown. It's kind of similar to Iowa where we don't know if Mark's going to play, but I would doubt that Billy Edwards would play. And then Danny O'Neal played most games. And then on Saturday, Hunter Simmons came in, and it was a surprise.
Had a nice game.
Yeah, for the most part.
All things considered, I mean, walking into Ann Arbor and go figure it out, bud. I mean, he made some good throws there. But so we'll see who comes out for Iowa at QB1. Again, Kirk saying by Friday, by the time they get on the plane, I imagine, to Madison, you want to know who your guy's going to be at 6 p.m.
That's when Iowa fans will probably find out, right?
You can picture waking up Saturday morning and somebody from somewhere is going to leak something up. So we'll see who starts there. We'll see who's in and out. We do know it sounds like Xavier Williams is back on track to start. He's missed a couple games, went out in the UMass game with an injury, and boy, you could use a big bruiser with Kamari Moulton back there. Sounds like TJ Washington, Jazz Patterson are both going to be out. Reese Vanderzee sounds like he's on track to get back. That'd be great if you could have him in any capacity, whether it's just as a 6'4" guy to take attention away from other receivers or get in the run block and anything like that. You will also be missing Jaden Harrell, your starting Mike linebacker, the first 5 games. Prior to Urbandale, not going to be able to make it. We saw him go out late against Indiana. Not sure the extent of his injury, what exactly it is, how long he'll be out, but that means enter Jaden Montgomery, a legacy Hawks, son of Jerry, going back to his home state to make his first career start, and plenty of praise for the kid who apparently made a first impression early on Cohen Entringer and a lot of others, and despite more diminutive status, not the tallest guy in the world, sounds like he makes up for it with work ethic. Let's hear a little bit about what the Hawkeyes think about their new starting middle linebacker.
It's just getting comfortable in practice, hearing the call, being confident in what you're saying, being loud about it. I think Jamon's done a really good job of that, so I'm excited to see what he has in store for us.
He's your class, right?
Yep.
He's a fourth-year guy. What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, really nice guy, vocal leader, I would say, really hard worker. I mean, kind of a classic Iowa football player.
Jaden Montgomery, man, I remember we came in, our freshman year, and I was like, that's a guy who got his stuff together. And, Jamont, he's a great guy. He's a great leader. He was voted on the Leadership Council. So I think that just goes to show just the type of human being he is. And he just works tremendously hard every single day. And I'm just excited just to take the field with him. I know he's going to maximize this opportunity, and I tell him, man, what better opportunity to be able to get your first career start, in your hometown of Wisconsin. So I'm excited to take the field with him. And I know all the other 10 guys who are out there on defense are excited to play with him. He's a hard worker, and I don't think we'll miss a beat.
He's a great student in high school. You watch his film, it was really impressive. Full-speed player and full-speed mentally. And that's who he's been since he's been here. He's been a really good special teams guy. He's been recognized as a leader by our players internally. And, we talked about Cohen going to Vegas, not even basically being a starter. And Jaden's on the leadership group, basically voted by his peers. So everything he's done has just been really exceptional. And to me, he's earned his way. I mean, that's why he was the second team guy and has done a good job there. I think he'll do a good job here this coming Saturday and however long he's in there. And excited to see him get a chance to perform. He's worked really hard for it, and smart guy and a confident guy. And, I know this, he'll lay it out there for us. So, it's fun to see him climb the ladder like that.
Jaden's done everything that he needs to do on his end to give us the confidence as a staff that if we need to go in that direction where Jaden goes in there at the middle linebacker position or even the will position, because he's built some position flexibility there, that I think he's got the confidence not only of his teammates but also our staff that we can put Jaden Montgomery out there in any situation, and to me it's just a matter of time.
Just heard from Seth Wallace there about a month ago on a Zoom interview. We get to talk to assistants on Wednesdays, and that was fresh off Jaden Montgomery's first career tackle there. You're watching on YouTube against Albany, and you heard the confidence they had, and boy, that matter of time has turned into now as he steps in for Jaden Harrell. I know we don't have a lot of highlights of Jaden Montgomery. You might be seeing all of them right now, a lot of Kids Day and spring ball stuff, but again, he's got the pedigree. I believe his brother is a student assistant on the team as well as Tevin. What do we think about Jaden Montgomery stepping into, again, the quarterback of the defense? He's in charge of the calls and the checks and everything. Got all the experience in the world. He's looked at as a leader, but how do we feel about him stepping in again in his home state, going back to Wisconsin for his first start as a Hawkeye?
If you look at his profile picture on the website, this kid is 0% neck. It's just ears like straight down to the shoulder blades. The kid, I mean, you have to like the amount of experience, the amount of football this kid has played over the last 8 years. I mean, even though he hasn't had a ton of time on the field at Iowa, he was a starter for 4 years in high school. He had, I think I read, 77 tackles as a freshman on his high school team. Would have played just outside of the Green Bay suburbs because his dad was an assistant coach with the Packers, yes. And so you big Jerry Montgomery guy, you know all about his tenure there as an assistant coach?
I do not.
All right, no, neither did
Moving along.
But no, he's a Hawkeye legacy. You mentioned his dad, Jerry. His mom, Natalie, played volleyball at Iowa as well, double legacy kid. So I was kind of looking into his dad's background. He's had a long coaching tenure, including some stops at Iowa City West. Nyack, who once had a football team, he was up there. He was at UNI for a few years, would have been alongside Scott Frost when he was an assistant at UNI. So just football run him right through this guy's veins. And you have to imagine, it really reminds me of a couple years ago when Deacon Hill went to Madison for his, I think, was that his first start when he went to Madison, I think?
He started against Purdue the week before.
Yeah.
That was the week before.
That was right after Michigan
State. Went
State.
against Michigan State, started against Purdue, and then, So it was a quick turnaround, though, to get back to Madison.
But a kid who had played at Wisconsin was going back trying to beat his home team. I imagine that this kid, well, he probably wasn't a Badger fan growing up. He probably was a Hawkeye fan having two parents. But a kid who watched a lot of Badger football, heard a lot about Badger football, I imagine, growing up, going back to the home state now, trying to be his home state team.
Yeah, we'll see. You know, you mentioned, a lot of special teams play, got a little run at Indiana and obviously the other two, the early games against Albany. I just think this linebacker group, I want to see someone jump off the charts. I don't think Jaden Harrell's played bad all year, but a
couple forced fumbles.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been right close to turnovers because of him.
The bar at Iowa for linebackers is super high. That's what kind of works against these linebackers.
The blessing and curse of being the Mike, right?
Yeah. So I don't mind, and obviously we hope Jaden Harrell gets healthy. I'm not saying that glad that he's hurt and he's out, but I wouldn't mind seeing other players get a shot to see if there's some gamers on the roster, and maybe Jaden Montgomery steps in, or maybe it's one of the younger guys.
I was going to ask you that. Do you think after the bye week you hear about all the younger guys getting reps? We've seen Preston Reese flash against Albany. Haven't really seen Weisskopf out there a lot. I don't know if I think he's got some run. I'm not sure if he has a tackle. I know Cam Buffington had a tackle either against Albany or UMass. Do we think this is an opportunity for, hey, it's tough to step into that mic. I mean, rarely do you don't always have a Josie Jewell or a James Morris stepping in there as a freshman to be the mic. But do we think that maybe after this bye week you see one of those homegrown freshmen that everyone is raving about maybe getting an opportunity as well?
That's almost what I was hoping for a little bit. I mean, I am a little bit biased, having covered these guys in high school. I'm kind of rooting for the Weisskopfs and the Buffingtons to get in there and get a little bit more run, just because it's kind of fun to tell those stories after watching those guys throughout their high school careers. So I'd like to see that happen, but Montgomery seems like he's a talented player. Every time I see him making a tackle, it's like a big hit. Like, the kid holds nothing back when he's tackling somebody out there. So it would be fun to see this kid step up, and regardless of who's in there, it seems like we're getting a peek into what happens next year at the linebacker
For sure,
spot.
yeah. That's just what I was going to say. And when preseason, when you see Preston Reese's name on the freaks of college football, like down on the lower end, you get excited, and you see him make plays on special teams, and you're like, all right, this is the middle linebacker of the future, because that's where he's been playing. Like, I would love to see him play, even if it's in this second half of the game. If you're a Hawkeye fan, hopefully the game's out of hand by then, just because Wisconsin hasn't been the greatest this year. But if not, if they're running right at you and Jaden Montgomery's not giving you what Harrell gave you, maybe make a switch, and Seth Wallace hasn't been reserved to make a switch if he needs to. So it would be fun to see those young guys get on, and eventually they're going to have to, get on the field next year.
Regardless, it's a diminutive linebacker core because Shire is not a tall guy either. Like, this is a small group out there.
Yeah, well, Mike said, Wisconsin's going to try and not let this thing get out of hand, but of course that's exactly what happened last year, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But let's take a look at the Badgers. By the numbers, 2-3 with losses to Alabama, Michigan, and Maryland. 2 ranked teams and a Maryland team that, had Washington on the ropes there for a while, and the Huskies came back and won that thing in College Park over the weekend. But you take a look at the numbers there on the YouTube channel, scoring, offense across the board, not blowing anybody out of the water, but the defense is where they really hang their hat, including that rush defense. They were number 1 in the country against the run until that trip to Ann Arbor, and as Michigan does with Justice Hayes and a collection of running backs, had some success on the ground, still 6th in the country against the rush. A lot of transferred defensive linemen who are in there that are all, I think the lightest one's 299, listed 299. So they've got some beef up front, that front 7. Certainly tough to move against. And one of the members of that front 7, you may recall us talking about in the spring, is Daryl Peterson. Daryl Peterson made a comment to reporters in Madison back in April, almost a year to the day. I believe it was April 9th, and you see it up there on the YouTube channel. That tweet from Johnny Slusher talking about how the Badgers have done 42 push-ups at the end of every practice in the spring, a nod to the 42-10 loss to Iowa last season. Peterson was asked about why that loss stood out among the big rivalries they had and the losses they had last year. He said, quote, "When have you ever heard of Iowa scoring 42 points ever," end quote. And that got traction, a lot of traction, so much so that 6 months later, that was kind of the big talking point for a lot of folks yesterday to players. Let's hear from a couple of them.
Did you know the Wisconsin players have been doing 42 push-ups like after practice and all that?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I have heard that.
What do you think of that?
It's interesting. I mean, every team has their thing, I guess. Yeah, I don't really think about it too much, I guess.
I guess it shows that they've got you guys circled, though.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a point for us this week. I mean, we got to approach it just like it's a Big Ten game and a trophy game at that on the road. It's going to be a hostile environment, so I mean, we would be fools to show up and expect it not to be tough. It's going to be a tough environment. We got to be ready to go when we get there.
We don't really focus too much on that. We kind of just focus on, what we're doing every day in practice and just kind of the routine that we have.
And there's a look back at that 42-10 win that left such an impression on the folks in Madison. You see there on the graphic, biggest margin of victory for Iowa against the Badgers since 1968. Talked about it in the offseason. You just don't see Iowa beat Wisconsin. You don't see either side really win by 30-plus, maybe a couple there for the Badgers over the last couple of years, but a big one certainly running for 300-plus. Caleb Johnson had a big game. Brendan Sullivan certainly showed out a little bit there. We didn't hear a lot from the players on really anything yesterday, it felt like. They weren't going to say anything about the quarterbacks.
Only 6 guys coming out. It was,
only had 6.
Light availability.
And again, you want an example of why you don't say a whole lot of stuff? Because Daryl Peterson said something 6 months ago, and we're still talking about it. Do you think the 42 focus, put yourself in Madison's shoes right now and what the Badgers and their fan base, are you happy that they're still focused on 42? Or are you thinking like, guys, let's move on, like just focus up?
I think I'd be happy. I mean, if you look at Wisconsin's schedule and how they've played so far, I think if I'm a Wisconsin fan, I'm looking, this is one of our winnable games this month.
Yeah.
And it might be one of the only ones, this season. Mm-hmm. They just have, they're going through quarterback issues too. They're on their 3rd string as well. It's not an easy thing to do. They've also got starting safety out, starting center's been out, and I think another player that I have. But anyway, this game could change your season. So
3-3 feels a lot better than 2-4.
100%. And, it is a rivalry game, even though it doesn't seem as heated as, either Wisconsin and Minnesota, Iowa and Nebraska. It feels like more of a respected rivalry. But if Iowa wins this week, it'd be the first 4-game win streak Iowa would have since 2002, 2005.
Yeah.
That'd be, that's been 20 years.
Yeah.
You just don't see.
No, it hasn't.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
So if I'm a Badger fan, I'm hoping this team is ready to go and can like play above themselves on Saturday.
At the same time, you have to almost be frustrated if you're a Badger fan that it's like, is Iowa our Super Bowl? Like, is this really the game that we're focusing on? Are we there as a program where it's like we're not even competing for like Big Ten titles anymore? That the Iowa game, okay, they scored 42 against us last year, so that's the thing we're focusing on. It seems like that would at least like the one discouragement to fans would be like that they are focusing on this game so much they're treating it like it's the biggest game of the year. When after Iowa, 4 of your next 5 games are against top 20 opponents, and you're out. Well, I mean, again, I say you're doing this. They were doing it at least 6 months ago. Who knows if they're still doing the 42 push-ups or whatever, but at least back then you're treating it like this is like your Super Bowl, the biggest game of the year.
And it has been such a rivalry for a while. The Heartland Trophy itself is a newer trophy compared to like Paul Bunyan's axe against Minnesota. But if you are a Wisconsin fan, like the last decade, Iowa's kind of had the upper hand, it feels like for the most part, especially the last 5 years in the rivalry game. Your other major rival in Minnesota, you dominated that rivalry for 20-some years in the early and mid-2000s, and over the last decade, that's basically split in half. I mean, Minnesota didn't have that axe forever, and since Fleck got there, Wisconsin's lost that quite a bit. Ethan Kaliak-Manis, as a freshman, walked in there and threw for 300 yards, and Minnesota walked out with the axe. And I think that was one of those years that that win helped Iowa win the Big Ten West. Was that 21?
Oh, yeah, because I was at that game in Lincoln.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
right.
It happened the next day, though.
Yeah. It was Black Friday. Iowa won. Peters came in the second half and won. And then it was like, hey, if Wisconsin doesn't get this done, Iowa's going to Indy. What a weird stretch for Wisconsin after so much dominance and ruling the West Division, and even when there weren't divisions, just being such a powerhouse, to now be like, trying to just win your rivalry game and keep the trophy case full. It's just a very strange time, and people are talking all about what happens with James Franklin and Happy Valley. They're saying the same thing and have been now for most of this year about Fickle and Madison.
Any chance Fickle's back next year?
I don't think so. I looked at their schedule again, and it's
tough,
brutal.
It's tough.
After Iowa, they play
hard.
At home against Ohio State, on the road against Oregon, Washington at home, Indiana on the road, Illinois, and then at Minnesota. Like, they could lose every game the rest of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if they won 3 of those, if they beat Iowa this week. Not the ranked games, and then you're still missing a bowl game.
Right.
It's a weird dichotomy of games that Iowa's played, because you look at Indiana and Kirk Cignetti, that just shows how you can switch a college football program on a dime. Mm-hmm. But then on the opposite side, we're playing Wisconsin, who, when they hired Fickle, you thought he was going to take them to the next level, and it's just losing season after losing season, right? Like, it's just a weird couple of games where, Wisconsin was a respected program, and now, after a couple losing seasons,
I honestly wonder, like, do you guys think that Fickle ends the year as Wisconsin's head coach?
I think a lot, right? I mean, I don't want to be hyperbolic about how important this game is to them, but like, I feel like a lot rides on that, because you're looking at
3 is different than 2 and 4.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're halfway through and you're like, this just isn't working, and again, like the totality of the situation, like
couple years with their
quarterback's been banged. Yeah, I mean, you bring in Tyler Van Dyke last year from Miami, he gets hurt immediately. You bring in Belly Edwards, who was a darn good quarterback.
Series.
Yeah, it's just you think Iowa's had it tough at quarterback lately? Look at Madison too. Kindred spirits there. It's just a really tough spot for them.
If they lose to Iowa, there's like almost no way they don't have a 6-game losing streak here, because they've got Ohio State and Oregon right after, where maybe have a chance to beat Washington after that. But yeah, you're almost guaranteed 6-game losing streak if you lose to Iowa. Like, I really don't know if I see Fickle there as a coach when they head to Minnesota the last week of the year.
That's why I think this team is going to be ready to go on Saturday.
Yeah.
It's because they didn't look bad in Ann Arbor.
Honestly.
I mean, opening drive looked good, and they kind of stalled out for a while, but like defensively, they played pretty tough. Michigan kind of shot themselves in the foot a couple times. There were some drop passes and things, but like,
that was an interesting game.
It's not easy to go to the big house and compete, let alone keep it close. Hey, they covered.
Because you mentioned that first drive, they had 12 plays, 75 yards, and a touchdown, and then their next 9, 6-play drive, 3-play, 5-play, 3-play, 4, and then 4 3-plays, and then their last one, which I turned it off, so I actually didn't watch the last quarter or whatever. I'm assuming Michigan was either playing, just let's get the game over with. 13-play drive and you get a field goal. So, that first drive did surprise me, how well they moved the ball down the field.
And it wasn't one big play. I mean, it's 12 plays.
That's something Luke Fickell talked about at his press conference this week. He said, if you don't have chunk plays, he didn't say this verbatim, but it's like it's going to be hard to score if it's not 13 drive plays. And I don't think like a third-string quarterback in that offense is going to do that against Iowa on a consistent basis. They might do it once or twice, but, it'll be tough.
It'll be tough, but again, it could be make or break. You're going back and you need something to happen in Madison, Wisconsin. Well, one of the guys that we will probably see out there, not just because of the injuries to the running back room, but because since he showed up in January, he's been turning heads in the football building, and then when you pop out at spring practice and Kids Day, and now that we're in the regular season, Nathan McNeil has certainly impressed, and we don't see a ton of true freshmen available for Tuesday media availability. Heck, for the longest time, true freshmen were not allowed. Yeah. I go back to Marcus Coker in the 2010 Insight Bowl, and he was having the game of his life, and we were all joking, boy, we can't wait to not talk to Marcus Coker after this game, because true freshmen didn't, but we got to. And Nathan McNeil, just a really impressive kid that we've heard so much about on and off the field. He is our Hawkeye highlight this Wednesday. Let's spend a few minutes with a true freshman out of Tampa, Florida.
What's it like standing in front of the cameras like this? Out here with us?
It's something.
Yeah. Didn't get this in high school, I suppose?
I got a little bit, not too much, not like this.
What's this been like, being here for a year, stepping on there, coming in early, enrolling early, and seeing the field so quickly?
It's been good, just like knowing coaches have faith in me and like to go out there and like produce. So it's been good so far. I feel like, yeah.
Was that, I know you were recruited by Coach Betts, but was that something that maybe he brought up, is seeing the field early for you, or is that just something that kind of materialized when you got here?
Oh yeah, the first thing he told me, he was just like, oh, I could see you playing early and stuff. Like he was talking about how like K2 played early. He was like, I could see just how K2 played early, you could play early too. That's one of the things brought up when he recruited me.
Did you anticipate being at this point? Let's say looking back a year, did you think you'd be, playing significant minutes for a Big Ten team?
I didn't at all, because after my junior year, I only had 2 offers and really like not really good offers. So so I didn't really think that I would be here, but I'm glad God gave me the opportunity to be here.
We don't have to list those schools, those ones are good offers. But talking about Iowa and getting those offers, I mean, what kind of talk me through your journey getting to Iowa, getting noticed by them, and how you ended up here.
So my senior year begun, and after like the first 2 games, I started talking to Coach Betts, and like he told me like it's gonna be slow. His recruiting's gonna be slow, because he just wanted to see more out of me. So like after a couple of games, I kept sending him film and stuff, and then after the 6th game, he offered me finally. Then I came for a visit, and then everything just started flowing after that.
What were your first 6 games like that managed to get that offer? What were you doing, like 200 yards a game or something?
Yeah. It was crazy games. It was like 3 touchdowns a game, 150 yards, all purpose, catching out the backfield, playing receiver, kick return, stuff like that.
Yeah. Why do you think you went under recruited?
Probably I didn't do too good my junior year. That's why I had to transfer out of that school, because I don't think I got as much like opportunity at that school. But I transferred out, and I started like blowing up after that.
Committing to Iowa and committing to Coach Betts, and then having a new coach when you get here, what was that like? Was that kind of like, I don't know, surprising? How was that for you?
It was tough at first. Just like I didn't really see that going like that. But the new coach Omar Young came in. He was great from the start to now. So like it's been easy because he made it easy. But yeah.
How did he make it easy?
Just by like first when he came here, he talked to everybody. He was like how he runs stuff and stuff. And then like after that first meeting, I could tell like he knows what he's talking about. Like just by off of everything he does, coming from the NFL, just talking about like the little things. So that's what I liked about him.
So I want to give some perspective here. He's a true freshman, and I think when people hear true freshman, you're thinking, okay, like 18 but pushing 19 or already 19. When Nathan McNeil got to Iowa City in January, he was barely 17 and a half years old. Moving from Tampa, Florida, which in January I imagine is pretty nice. Moving to Iowa City in January, which I don't know if you're aware, is not that nice for him. And then a month later, the guy who recruited you, who convinced you, gave you your opportunity to play D1 football leaves. You're 17 and a half years old, new place, it's freezing, you're from Florida, and the guy who put faith in you is gone. I think that's a testament to, and we've heard it again over and over, of just how impressive he's been off the field, of just going about his business. I mean, 17 and a half years old, you're away from home, the guy who brought you to Iowa City gets another job. He's been impressive off the field, and as he's gotten his opportunities, Nathan McNeil is really impressed on the field. And I think even Sam Phillips was asked yesterday, and he said that kid's going to be really good.
And that's an interesting one that we're going to be watching on Saturday, because he's got a chance to show up against a defense that's pretty solid. That's going to be the interesting thing about that Wisconsin matchup, is that there's been so many banged-up injuries in that running back room, and they've got such a good run stop. But Nathan McNeil has a chance to show what he's made of in this game, because if it's not Gronowski out there, they're really going to be leading heavy on the run game. And
he's looked really good when he has carried the ball this season, even that one run against Indiana in a real competitive game. He got one carry and he took it like 10 yards. It is kind of amazing, though, when you look back at it. Picking him up, I think he was a 3-star. I'm looking at his profile on 247 Sports, and his only other two offers were Arkansas State and Rhode Island, at least according to this.
Yeah, really.
And it's like, and then Iowa, I think he took a visit to Louisville, USF, and Iowa State as well, but they don't list him as offers on here. That's just a way to find like a really good prospect in the rough, and this week, depending on how healthy Xavier Williams is, he could be, unless I'm missing someone in my head, your second back.
Yeah, Brevin Dahl is maybe your fourth there. I mean, we've talked about it, but 6 months ago, going to spring ball, you go, 25? Like, he's bigger than Akram. He's wearing 25, and he just had that wiggle, and everything we heard about him before the season started was impressive, and then you get to talk to him again yesterday too, and he had a great you gave him kudos. Was asked about the quarterbacks, how the quarterbacks are looking. You should probably ask Coach Ferentz about that. Like that, he's poised in the pocket, so to speak. Really well done.
Everyone's kind of say that too. Like just like there was definitely a memo that went out.
Yeah. Because again, Daryl Peterson said something 6 months ago, and everyone's talking about it. So don't give anybody anything.
I mean, Think about how long these sound bites can I just had an ad pop up for a Red Sox thing, which got me thinking about it. Like Pedro Martinez in 2004 in the ALCS said the thing about, like, just got to tip my hat and call the Yankees my daddy. And it's like Yankees fans are still saying, who's your daddy to the Red Sox. But, yeah, Nathan McNeil came out there yesterday, again, as a true freshman, even standing in front of the cameras. I asked him about that, too. Like, all right, how you feeling standing in front of the cameras? I assume you didn't get a whole lot of this type of coverage down in Tampa. But, yeah, he was comfortable in there. And, yeah, I think it was Tom Caker maybe who asked the question about, like, well, who's been taking the snaps with the ones at quarterback? And he's like, probably better ask Kirk about that. I'm like, handled like a pro. You got it, Nathan. Nice job.
You saw the panic in his eyes.
He looked looked for answers over by Dwayne Banks Field for a little bit. Anybody over there out in literal left field? I think the quarterback answer, Cade Pieper was also asked about it, and you hear all about Cade's personality, and it doesn't show up on camera when he's in front of us, which more power to him. But said something like, "Yeah, I mean they're all good. They're all our quarterbacks." Right, you are, Cade Pieper. Can't argue that logic.
Thanks.
Well, hey, it's finally feeling like fall around Eastern Iowa, and certainly is going to in Madison this weekend. Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Rebecca Kopman for the Weather First forecast at Camp Randall.
Hey there, guys. We finally have some nice fall football weather that is showing up around here, and it'll stay with us as we head into the weekend here for the Iowa game out in Madison, Wisconsin. And we are going to have that cool weather still going on into this weekend. Nice, comfortable conditions. Temperatures are going to be hanging out close to 70 degrees in the afternoon, so it should be nice. May not need a jacket during tailgating, but you'll want one during the game. As the sun sets, temperatures will fall pretty quickly out of the 60s into the 50s, and it'll be pretty chilly by the time the game is done, but plenty of sunshine, staying calm. Winds seem to be staying light as well, so should be a great day out there for hopefully a Hawkeye win.
You didn't hear Owen, but Owen was looking at yeah, okay,
right,
sure,
yeah. That,
We've
kickoff?
been sweating enough on the sidelines for every game this season. Speaking of sweating, it's time to start sweating these picks because the year is not going well. If Mike wants to recap how things went well or not well for us in this past week.
They could have went a lot worse if not for a couple of backdoor covers, or I don't know if they're actually backdoor covers.
I was convinced that Michigan State spread was 10.5, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. But
it was. So background, when Mitch lays us out on Tuesday, I always go back on Wednesday just so I have the most updated line, and it moved a point. So luckily, so we all lost Michigan against Wisconsin. Who would have thought that?
And again, that's a game that ends with Michigan on the Wisconsin 3.
Yeah, it also Wisconsin scored a late field goal, and they were up 17. So then Penn State, I was going to mock you. I'm glad I didn't last week.
Kudos to Owen.
I picked UCLA to cover.
He picked UCLA outright, right? I mean, you said Jerry Neuheisel. This guy knows how to call a game.
Outright. I didn't say they were going to win that game, but I was like, they can keep it within 3 scores, I bet. But man, that's maybe the most shocking. I was joking with one of our anchors, Nicole Dantzler, who's a Penn State grad, and she's an Eagles fan too. And I was like, oh man, it was a rough weekend for her. Yeah. The Broncos beat the Eagles, and then Penn State lost. That's one of the most shocking, maybe the most shocking college football results of the season.
Owen and I got Maryland right to cover, although Washington was up big. Mitch, you almost had that one.
No,
and then
Maryland was up big, and Washington had to feverishly come back. Yeah, second half's covered, definitely.
Had that backwards. And then Mitch and I got Michigan State. So again, Owen and I went 2-2. Mitch went 1-3.
We've had so many half-point killers this year, which that Michigan State-Nebraska one was one of them. That literally Nebraska won by 11 points. So.
All right, so I'm 10-13-1 this season. Owen is 12-11. Does he have a tie as well? I can't see the N1. Yes. And Mike's your leader through 5 games, I guess 6 games, right? 6 weeks we've been doing it.
6 weeks.
13-10-1. That's a profit right there for old Mike Howell, the pride of Fort Dodge. This week, we look at our game of the week. These are all, aside from Iowa, 2:30 kicks across the board. We start with Indiana coming off a bye of their own in Eugene against Oregon, number 3 team in the country. The Ducks are 7.5-point favorites at home. That's a 2:30 kick again, and you can watch it over on CBS too.
I might have thought that this would have been a little bit bigger spread. I'm seeing 7.5.
Started at 10, I think.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so I think I saw that earlier.
I mean, on paper, definitely game of the week, but I know we still are not giving Indiana enough credit, probably. But boy, going into Oregon, a team that just beat Penn State, who we thought was a good team, we're starting to question that now. Now they're not even ranked, but still, I think that Oregon on their home field could win this game by 10 to 14 points.
So you got Oregon.
Yep.
Yeah, game of the week for sure. This could be the Big Ten game of this, or game of the season. Yeah. Really. Yeah. I mean, with these 2 quarterbacks, Dante Moore's been playing outstanding. Fernando Mendoza, we've saw it in person. He's been playing amazing. I do think that travel is just when when Penn State goes to UCLA, a lot of the Big Ten teams struggle when they go west if they're from the Midwest or the East. And likewise, when the West Coast teams come across the Rockies. So I'm going to go with Oregon, but I hope this is a good game. Maybe they just pull away late.
Yeah, both are coming off a bye, too, so it's not like Oregon's coming off. That was probably another factor, I feel like, for Penn State as you play this absolute, a fantastic game against Oregon the week before. Now let's go out west and all the variables that come there. I'm still going to take Oregon to cover, too. Indiana could easily prove us wrong. But until, their big measuring stick last year was can you beat Ohio State? And Ohio State kind of handled everything. And then in the playoff as well, Indiana went up against, was it Notre Dame they lost to in the playoff there?
Yeah, Indiana.
And Notre Dame looked good. So until they can really clear that hurdle,
sure.
We'll keep taking the other team to cover.
Interesting question. Who do you think Hawkeye fans are rooting for this week in this game? The team you lost to, or do you want – Oregon hasn't lost a Big Ten game, and they play Iowa. So, if you really – I mean, I don't have a lot of confidence, but if you want them undefeated when they play, right, and then top 5, just so if you do beat them, it's a huge win? Or do you want your loss to look better? I mean, it doesn't really matter either way.
I don't really care about optics, right? Like, I don't know if –
I've never been one to care about that much either. I think if I'm an Iowa fan, I would like Oregon to win, just a chance to maybe move up in the rankings even more and potentially have
So if you're in it late in the Big Ten race, Indiana has another loss. That makes sense.
Yeah.
When you want Oregon to win, but maybe come out a little beat up, that's your ideal.
That's true.
Not that you're not wishing ill on anybody, but because last year or in the preseason talking about, I thought Iowa was going to lose Penn State or Oregon. I picked the Penn State game, and now I'm like, can anybody beat Oregon regardless? They just look incredible. Moore's probably your Heisman favorite right now. They're tough, but so we'll all take Oregon to cover. Then you've got those Nittany Lions, unranked, back home against Northwestern. Penn State's a 22.5 home favorite. That kick is at 2:30 on FS1. Can the Nittany Lions right the ship, or can the other Cats claw their way to at least a cover in Happy Valley?
This looks like the line has already moved a little bit on ESPN. I'm seeing 21.5 right now. Are we sticking with that? Says 22 up there, right?
Yeah, I saw that was on one of the books that I saw this morning.
So we're going 22.5.
Yeah.
It's a tempting one after what UCLA just did to Penn State, but I think that Penn State's going to come in kind of with the same motivation that we talked about Wisconsin coming in with, where it's like if you lose this game, it's like then all of a sudden you've got a head coach on the hot seat. So I think that Penn State comes out with a little bit maybe more motivation in this one, and they could win this one by 28 points.
It's really weird, too, after a game when James Franklin comes out and says, you know, he was talking about the loss, that he lost a few players, like 2 losses became 1, and that the travel impacted them. But they did try to make a comeback, and towards the end of that game, I still think Penn State is a good team. I don't know what it is about traveling like that. I do think that played a factor. I'm not saying that's why they lost, because UCLA was 0-4. Like, I mean, come on. They lost a really bad game earlier to, I think, New Mexico, too. Like, just got blown out at home. But I do still think Penn State's pretty good, and they can still make the playoffs if they do go undefeated, which I don't think they're going to. And I don't think they're as good as we once thought. But I still think they cover here.
Yeah, I didn't think Drew Aller played that terribly out west. That receiving core has been a little underwhelming considering what we thought they'd be. I think this is a get-right game. I know Northwestern played Oregon really tough in Evanston a couple weeks ago and ran for like 200 yards against them. It's a different story entirely, traveling east and going into Happy Valley. And again, talk about Luke Fickell, maybe a must-win game in Madison. Like, James Franklin has to get a win here in games that he's usually winning. So I'll take Penn State to cover. So we'll stay uniform. We're
going to have every
2 games. Yeah, we're going to see real quick. Other 2:30 kick on BTN. Nebraska, 6.5-point favorites on the road, going to College Park against Maryland. Terps coming off their first loss. Again, led Washington largely for almost all that game until the Huskies made a late comeback to steal the win. But can Nebraska win by a touchdown in College Park, or can the Terps bounce back and keep this thing close, maybe even get a win against the Huskers?
It's crazy how Nebraska has such a different schedule when you look at a team like Wisconsin, who's got 4 top 20 teams the next. Nebraska, as it stands, does not have a ranked team left on their schedule right now. I mean, they are playing some tough teams like Penn State and USC, but they aren't ranked right now. So they've got like pretty easy street when it comes to getting back to bowl eligibility for a second straight year. In terms of this game, Maryland has really been playing nicely lately. I think I'll hang Maryland to potentially win this game outright.
I think Wisconsin, Nebraska fans will probably say they had a lot of tough schedules in their first decade in the Big Ten, and this is just, them repaying the favor. I'll go with Nebraska. I do like Maryland this year, and I just think after a collapse like that, it's going to be tough to get the guys going again. And I think Dylan Raiola is playing some really good football, so I'll go with Nebraska.
I don't know if Nebraska wins, but I think Maryland covers. I think this is a 3 or 4 point game. We're going to learn a lot about Malik Washington bouncing back from his first loss, but he gets to bounce back at home. That's a big difference there, so we'll see how that goes. And then we head to Madison for the 6 p.m. kick on FS1. Iowa, a 3.5 point favorite against Wisconsin on the road. I don't think the spread's really moved, which is interesting. Somebody knows something, or somebody maybe not know anything. But what do we think about what happens in the Battle for the Heartland Trophy 2025 edition?
And the over-under on this is 35.5.
That's more like it.
That's an Iowa-Wisconsin if I've ever seen one. And, there are some factors. A lot of injuries in both teams. Quarterbacks, obviously, we've talked about that nonstop. I still think Iowa will be able to run the ball on Wisconsin. I know the rush defense is better than pass defense, but, Iowa they have the linemen, and they have, at least a couple running backs who I think are really good. And no matter who's there, if they can't run the ball, I'll be concerned. But I'm going to take Iowa to cover.
And that line is smaller than I would have thought it would be. I think just based on how Wisconsin – maybe this is based on Wisconsin's performance against Michigan last week because they did hang with them in that game. But it is a little bit smaller.
just for the sake of maybe shaking things up a little bit, I'll maybe take Wisconsin to potentially keep it within 3. Or, as we've been talking about this whole podcast, this is really their last chance to potentially pick up a win this year. So they're really sending everything in this one.
Even whoever starts a quarterback, and I think it'll be Mark, you had a formula against the Badgers last year where it was just stretch runs, get outside. And when you've got a defensive line full of 300-pound guys, basically a whole D-line of YA Blacks. Their numbers might not be crazy, their stats, but hey, they're plugging up holes. If you can get outside, get space, this could be a big game for Kamari, maybe Nathan and Xavier as well. I think Iowa's ground attack can withstand, and I'll take Iowa to cover. And maybe we get a surprise out of the passing game. Heck, maybe the defense gets one of those pick sixes that we've been waiting for, or some sort of big defensive play. Again, Danny O'Neal, I think, has got 5 picks in a short amount of time as well. So maybe the Doughboys finally show up on the road in the land of milk and cheese, and we'll see what happens there. But I'll take Iowa to cover as well.
Got a couple, at least one trivia question I want to ask you guys before we close up shop here. This just got me thinking about it with Fernando Mendoza being a possible front runner for a Heisman Trophy. Since 1990, I haven't done a deep dive on this, but unless there's a non-conference game I'm missing here, since 1990, as far as I can tell, there are only 2 Heisman Trophy winners who have played at Kinnick Stadium. Can you name who those 2 men are?
The year they've won?
Yes, the year they won the Heisman, I should say.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if this is the case, but I'll just say Ron Dane.
Not Ron Dane. Okay. They faced Iowa and Wisconsin the year he won.
Man, that's good. That's a good question.
It's been a minute. There have not been a lot of Big Ten Heisman winners the last 15 years.
Sure, yeah.
Has there been any? The last true Heisman winner out of the Big Ten was actually the last Heisman winner to play at Kinnick Stadium.
It wasn't Troy Smith, was it?
Bingo, son. Nice job.
I can't think of it. Was either 2010 or
2006.
6.
Yeah. I saw Troy Smith and that Ohio State team in 2006 at Minnesota. That team had Ted Ginn, Santonio Holmes, Antonio Pittman was a running back. Ted Ginn, the kickoff, he had a kickoff that started in one corner of the field and just like matriculated his way under. That team was nuts. But yeah, Troy Smith in 06, and then
we're going
Desmond Howard.
Good job.
Yeah.
Yes, the other one was Desmond Howard in 91. For Michigan, they played at Iowa that year.
All right.
Wow.
We did
trivia.
it.
Yeah.
We did it,
guys.
That was
Can't
fun.
believe we did.
Had a
Although
good
I got
time
a missed one in front, so
that's all right. We figured it out. We crossed the finish line, and that's what I will try to do in Madison on Saturday. We'll be back here Sunday morning. Hopefully, Owen gets some semblance of sleep at some point. Maybe. We'll see. Who knows?
Somewhere along the way.
# no sleep when it's football season. Of course, you can keep up with us and everything we're doing for Eye on the Hawks on the Iowa News Now YouTube channel. You've got the playlist. Again, go there. We've got, you didn't hear anything from Cade Beeper or Sam Phillips in today's show, but we've got the full interviews there up on the Iowa News Now YouTube channel. I think we had like 9 seconds from Ethan Herkett, who walked out with a Tires shirt, big supporter of the show there, and talked about some of the D-line pregame rituals and their movie nights ahead of games. So you want to check out that conversation there on the YouTube channel. Of course, wherever you get your podcasts, we are there as well. So we'll try to get some sleep, try to get some rest, and get ready for a big weekend of college football and high school football too, going into Week 7 to EIOT. Watch the YouTube channel for that as well. Big thanks to Erica, as always, for steering the ship here in the director's chair. For Mike and Owen, I'm Mitch. See you on Sunday on Eye on the Hawks.
At DePaco Credit Union, we value your health and happiness as much as your financial well-being. We encourage the volunteer spirit by providing DePaco employees with the tools and resources to help grow our communities and support the causes that matter to us. We believe that giving back not only strengthens the places we call home, but also enhances our overall well-being. Well-being is the key to a life worth loving. So when you think about yours, remember that DePaco can help you be well.